This is a Dynamics 365 podcast focusing on the ingredients of a successful Dynamics 365 practice. Your host is Business Solution MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as NZ365 Guy. Over the coming weeks, I'll be interviewing seasoned professionals from various parts of the world, talking about what it takes to be successful in a Dynamics 365 practice. For more information on this interview, show notes, feedback, and resources mentioned, or to suggest a guest for future episodes, please go to nz365guy.com/podcast. Thanks to Maplytics for sponsoring the Dynamics 365 Practice Podcast. iNorgic is a leading Microsoft Gold Dynamics CRM ISV, delivering best-in-class Dynamics 365 solutions through unparalleled offerings of service and add-ons. Its flagship product, Maplytics, is a market-leading certified for Microsoft Dynamics 365 geoanalytical mapping app that empowers users with powerful map visualization and routing capabilities to drive better sales, improve business processes, and engage right customer at the right time. Hi everyone, I'm here with Ben Vollmer, and in this episode we're going to be focusing on how practices can create great working relationships with Microsoft. Ben is the worldwide field service leader at Microsoft and has worked with Dynamics since CRM 1.0. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Appreciate it.
Excellent. So can you give us a bit of background on you? What can you tell us about yourself and your Dynamics career so far?
I've been around Dynamics since actually the very inception of the product. I was at a partner before this. We went to one of the Inner Circle events, and they said, "Hey, that Great Plains Siebel front office thing you're doing, that's going to die pretty soon. Here's what we're replacing it with." And my whole team kind of pivoted around to focus on Dynamics. At the time, it was Microsoft Business Solutions CRM. So I've been doing it since V1. V1 Alpha. We were the first site to actually deploy the code outside of Redmond. So I've been doing the product for quite some time. And as far as career goes, I started off doing consulting and then moved into doing pre-sales. Joined Microsoft it was actually 14 years ago. Joined Microsoft, started off as a partner technology strategist. So my job was to help partners activate. It was kind of neat. Some of my early partners include partners that have since grown to be very large in the Dynamics world. So folks like Customer Effective and Invoke Systems, for example, were a couple partners that we helped get started.
Brilliant.
And then I've been actually 6 years ago yesterday, I moved over into a sales role. So I moved from there to an architect role, and then I moved into a sales role 6 years ago and sold to enterprise accounts. And then I moved over to our mid-market accounts team. And then I moved to worldwide corporate sales 2 years ago.
And so that's where you are now?
And that's where I am now. So my job now is to help. It's mainly internally focused and customer focused, but it's to help our internal teams understand how to sell and position field service, and then help customers understand where our roadmap is, where we're going, what we're doing, and kind of help those big strategic deals we're working on understand the value of field service, both from a roadmap perspective as well as from a here and now perspective.
Right. Brilliant. So what does that have you doing on a day-to-day type basis?
Day-to-day is that's a great question. Every day, the coolest part for me, the job is every day for me is different. Everything I do in this job every day is different. So there is no standard day. It's everything from working on long-term projects that are 6 or 12 months out. Customer escalation. So if a customer either through the buying process, we ran across a kink in the way we do something, either from a product perspective or from usually it's from a contractual perspective. Our dotted I is a little bit to the right of the I, so we had to kind of correct that a little bit. To helping customers with with vision demos to helping, I've done quite a bit of work with the IoT detection field service. So it's working with those teams to make sure that they can help sell field service as part of their overall solution. The coolest thing we're working with right now is the HoloLens. Been working with the mixed reality teams, getting field service in their demos, and then getting their product in our demos.
Excellent. Exciting.
Very cool.
So in this episode, I'm really interested in talking or exploring how Dynamics partners can develop an outstanding relationship with Microsoft. And I know this is not your core functional area, but with 14 years experience and probably touched and engaged with many partners, I want to draw on that a little. So who should a partner be connecting with in Microsoft nowadays? What are the current roles, positions, titles, that type of thing in the Dynamics community that they should be engaging with?
The roles are, I think it depends on what kind of partner you are. If you're going after, enterprise accounts, you should definitely engage in an SSP. If you're a partner just kind of getting started and you're restarting your practice, or there's partner development managers you should talk to. I would tell you there's no shortage of people at Microsoft you can talk to. What I would say for the partners is figure out what you want to be when you grow up. Who are you? Do you have a vertical focus? If you do, you might want to talk to somebody in the vertical team. If you don't have a vertical focus and you have more of a horizontal or geographic focus, you may want to talk to somebody in the local team. I mean, I think a lot of partners they try to punch above their weight sometimes. You don't want to be, you want to be the right level. So don't try to be nationally managed if you're a local partner. Don't try to be globally managed if you're a national partner. For me, the partner channel manager, and the SSPs in your area, especially if you're working on enterprise deals, make the most sense for you to connect with.
So when you've seen partners working well with Microsoft, what are the typical patterns that you see and I'm not looking for, if you like, from Microsoft's engagement back with a partner, but really partners that excel in creating great relationships with Microsoft? What are the patterns you've seen?
I think the biggest patterns I've seen is openness and the willingness to share. Realizing that you're not going to get every deal. You're not going to be in every deal. You're not going to be there every time. And the other thing is, I would say clearly communicated expectations. It's kind of like if you have kids or your spouse. Do not leave your purse in the car, honey. It will get broken into. My wife and I had that argument for about 3 years, and then one day somebody broke into our car, and her purse got yanked, and then it became all of a sudden became a little more important on why that expectation was there. And so I think with Microsoft it's the same way. You need to set that expectation of, I'm willing to give you this, but here's my expectation of how you're going to treat that. And realize that the people you're working with don't always have control. And sometimes I think we're used to, from a partner side, I'm used to having, more control, if you will. Realize that in every situation at Microsoft, there's a lot of times where I don't have, in my current job particularly, I don't have any control. Or even as an SSP, I may know the right thing to do. I may know how to do the right thing, but because of other politics and other things going on in the company or with the account team or other things, I may not be able to do what I want to do, and might be the right thing. Maybe the straightest route. So sometimes I got to take this circuitous route to get to where I want to go. And so I think some partners get frustrated with the circuitous route. Well, A to B. Well, I know A to B is the fastest way, but I need to kind of make a right-hand turn and circle around, and then I can go to A to B to C to D, and then I get to my destination. But it takes me a little while to get there.
So what type of frequency should a partner be engaging now? I can understand if there's a deal in play, Microsoft, the appropriate team member would want to know about the deal and how they could support that. But outside of that, general relationship building, that type of thing, to create those connections and provide high visibility about what's going on in the partner business to Microsoft. What type of frequencies should be put in place? What type of rhythms, that type of thing?
I would say overdoing it is worse than underdoing it. It's kind of like a steak. Don't overdo the steak, underdo the steak.
Right.
You don't want to. I've seen partners want to do weekly syncs, and I'll be honest with you, weekly syncs aren't going to happen. At least for me, they're not. A lot of partners, kind of a monthly sync is there.
Yep.
Or some partners, I would almost say that I get them. They come on demand, so it becomes one of those things where, we may not talk for 3 months, and then all of a sudden we need to talk. And so I would say, monthly is the again, if and I'm picking on if you're a 20 or 30 person consulting firm, you're kind of a mid-sized consulting firm, monthly would be the maximum you should want to get to run somebody from Microsoft at a sales level. Even every month and a half or 2 months would be a appropriate time frame to have.
Yeah, makes sense. So how do you see the Dynamics 365 partner evolving, or what do you see the future? Traditionally, a lot of partners have pretty much gone after every deal that they smelled out in the market, and were very wide but not very deep, if you like, on verticalization or industry specific verticalization. I've heard a lot from Microsoft saying it's time to, and they've been saying actually Microsoft for some years now, need to verticalize. Do you see that's even more important in the future in the way Microsoft's direction is with the Dynamics
I think verticalization is important. Verticalization is important, Mark, but I think also size of customer is important. Know who your customer is. If you're again 25, you're a 10-person consulting firm, you're a 25-person consulting firm, you probably don't have business doing business with a Fortune 500 company. Correct. We say correct, but that's one of those things where partners are used to chasing anything that's got dollars, and they want to go do that.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of. If I look at the pursuits, there was a pursuit we did recently. Matter of fact, I'm on one right now, and the 2 line, just the people who are responsible for actions, is 14 people.
Wow.
That's a blend of Microsoft and our partners, but there's 14 people. I'm not saying 14 people are going to show up at the demo and 14 people are going to do, but there's 14 people doing the deal.
Yep.
If you're a 15-person consulting firm, we just killed half your bandwidth. So I would definitely say from a partner perspective, identify what segment you belong in. The vertical stuff, we've been preaching the vertical stuff for years. Some partners get it. Some partners don't. And I don't think you have to have vertical IP, by the way. I don't necessarily think you have to have a prepackaged quick start offering for this vertical. There's a lot of verticals you can hit in Dynamics without having prepackaged IP for them.
Agreed.
So pick those areas, pick those verticals, and know where you're. If you're an SMC customer, formerly known as SMB and CTM and some CAM, I would rather you be honest with yourself, say I am this type of partner, than try to muddle through a deal you have no business, or a customer you have no business, because the deal is half the battle, right? You fight to get the business, and then once you fight to get the business, then you got to fight to keep the customer because you weren't a good fit for the customer to begin with.
It's it's easy to say it makes sense, but it's hard for partners to necessarily create that laser focus in their businesses in a way.
I mean, it's hard when you're an entrepreneur to say, okay, you know, I've given blood, sweat, and tears to make my business, and it's hard to say, okay, you know what, and $1 million walks by, you want to grab that $1 million. You know, I would tell you that, you know, back when I was doing other products before Microsoft, I would rather have done 3 or 4 $30,000 deals than I would have a $150,000 deal.
Right.
Because I was in and out in a week, and the customer was very, very happy, and it was relatively quick and easy projects. As opposed to the, you know, this was 20 years ago, the $150,000 projects at that point were generally month and a half long projects, higher set of expectations. It was better money for me to do smaller projects and lots of them than it was to do bigger projects and fewer of them.
Yeah. So what skills does a partner need to develop or hire into their business looking forward, and the way, you know, the product's becoming becoming very application specific and focused on specific areas? What changes do you see a partner needs to take?
Specialization is going to be a requirement. I think when we've talked before offline, Mark, I mean, you started at CRM 1.2. And you could learn the whole platform in about 12 and a half minutes. And even if I look at 4.0, you know, you could be the master of the entire platform. But when you look at what we've got with Dynamics 365, if somebody says, I know everything, I know the whole product. Yeah. You know, my spidey sense tingles. So I think partners, the big thing with partners is you know, let's make sure we value and we work with different skill sets. So the skill set to do PSA or field service is very, very different than the skill set to do Salesforce automation.
100%.
The customer is very, very different. You know, when you're doing, you're doing SFA, you know, the customer is this, you know, is a salesperson. When you're doing field service, it's an operations person, which generally has a hatred of salespeople. So if you act like you do on a SFA project, on a field service project, your project's not going to last very long.
Yeah. It's interesting because in my experience, when I look at traditional ERP suppliers or partners as opposed to CRM partners, the ERP partners tend to have a much better handling under or having specific staff with specialization in specific areas of the product. They weren't generalists. They didn't know the whole product, but they knew very specific areas to a deep level, just because of the nature, you know, of more like an AX as an example. So it makes sense now we're seeing that start to come more into the CRM space as well.
Yeah. And I think there's, you know, when I look at, you know, before joining Microsoft, I was at a partner. I like what we had at the partner. I mean, on the ERP side, we had people who did nothing. You know, you were the report writer, you were the data importer. You know, you were the, and they basically stayed busy. Now that they had kind of a major and a minor, kind of like college. You know, my major is art history. My minor might be, IS. And so having a major and a minor, I think, for partners is important. But again, you can't take I think the big thing is you can't take somebody who's been doing Salesforce automation and drop them off onto a field service project with no ramp time. I mean, when we hire employees, we say, okay, you're going to get mentored underneath Mark. You're going to spend the next 2 weeks on, 2 projects working underneath Mark. We're going to cut your bill rate because we want you to, know what you're doing. We're going to be, you're using. We're going to make you kind of fit this mold. You have to do the exact same thing when you're going from SFA to PSA or SFA to field service. You can't just drop. You can't drop somebody who knows the product or knows the platform off they're going to have a head start. They're going to have a way have a head start, but the mindset, the product itself is a very different product. So the partners have got to kind of manage their business around that and understand that they need to ramp their people differently and have more specialization.
Yeah. Agreed. So what do partners need to stop doing? What mistakes do you see partners making that are limiting them, particularly how they're engaging with Microsoft? It actually might not be just specifically how they're engaging with Microsoft. It might be more your perception as somebody inside Microsoft, observing habits and partners that are not doing them any favors, either commercially or in their relationship with Microsoft.
So I'll tell you a few things. When I have a call with a partner, my talk track goes something like this. Hey, look, Mark, I appreciate the time on the call today. I just want to set the expectation here. I don't get leads. I don't hand out leads. I don't pass off leads. By the time somebody comes to me, the partner and the deal are pretty much baked. I'm just there to help make sure that we cover any sort of nuances. Now, sometimes we get asked for deals that are outside the ones I'm involved with. I'm happy to kind of kick you over as a recommended source, but no guarantees there because again, I don't control those things. And so that for me is, and you heard you chuckling a little bit there because you probably heard that same talk track from other people. Totally. But that talk track is basically trying to set expectations that, and even if I was, when I was an SSP, a lot of leads I got, I couldn't necessarily, I'll never forget it. I was working a deal one time and the customer was had preordained a partner to work this opportunity. And there's nothing I could do. Not a single thing I could do to tell that customer. And I tried, we had the conversation with the customer, that partner is not the right partner for you. But I think what partners need to realize is that sharing with Microsoft's not a bad thing. But setting expectations about how you're going to share, what you're going to share, and being open with Microsoft, I think that's the, that's one. The other one that they should stop doing, and this was a pet peeve of mine. Don't email me a question and then email one of my colleagues a question, the exact same question on a different email chain.
Yeah, I've heard of this before.
On the portal side, Corey and I get a fair number of portals questions, and they'll send Corey an email and they'll send me an email. What Corey and I've gotten in the habit of doing is just CCing each other on the replies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, you just wasted two people's time instead of one person's time.
Exactly.
We want to help you. So that's my current pet peeve.
Where do you think the unrealistic expectation has come from partners when they ask Microsoft for leads, or even to some way expect Microsoft to show their business favoritism as a partner over other partners? Microsoft's developing an ecosystem through its partner network that needs to be fair to everybody, and a partner would hate it if, they saw Microsoft favoring another partner. But I often see partners still have that expectation that Microsoft should favor them. Where do you think that unrealistic expectations come from over the years?
Well, I think some partners, if you go back in history, right? The partner I worked for before Microsoft was a Dynamics GP partner. That GP and SL was our bread and butter. We had a partner account manager, and all that partner account manager did was, not all they did, but one of the things they did quite a bit of was passing people who called into Microsoft, called into Great Plains. They would pass them to us to work.
Right.
And what's shifted and changed. So when I joined Microsoft, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, there were 6 people doing CRM in the US. 6.
Wow.
You can't cover Six people can't cover anything, right? I mean, six people at that point, you're there's way more than six today. So what happens now is it used to be a lead would come in, we would kick it to a partner. Hey, Bob, here is Susie from ABC Company. She just called in last week. Okay. And so, but now, those customers call up and they get assigned to a Microsoft sales rep to actually work. And then that sales rep figures out who he or she, the SSP figures out who or she wants to engage. And now there still is a lead mechanism, by the way. So the inside sales team still has a lead mechanism. But on the larger deals, it used to be, they would come in, it was literally a piece of paper and a name on a piece of paper, and we would go, okay, this goes to, and as a partner, I swear that, GP or Great Plains Software, they kind of give out leads like peanut butter, right? They put on a bread and just kind of make sure it was evenly spread across. And so you could be a very small company and get a lead for a huge company because you were next up in the lead distribution roster.
Right. So just a round robin system kind of thing.
It was the round robin. So I think some partner, Microsoft's business has evolved, and some partners have not. I'm going to say caught up with, but they're not following. They're not following that same. They haven't evolved with Microsoft.
Yeah, matured.
Oh, not just matured, but just. I mean, again, I go back to. When I joined Microsoft, my team was 5 partner account managers, and me as a TSP that became an SSP. So when I first joined Microsoft 14 years ago, there were 6 of us on the team. 5 people did partner account management, and I helped do the technical side of the partners, and then I became a specialist just for CRM. Okay.
Right.
So that there was no SSPs, and then slowly over time, those 6 became, 4 SSPs, 2 partner account managers, and then it became 5 SSPs and 1 partner account manager. And then it became 6 SSPs and no partner account managers.
Right.
And so I think as a partner, you kind of need to sit back and look at yourself and go, okay, how has my business evolved and how can I help? So what, successfully, one of the partners I worked with, what they would do is they would come and say, hey, what's a chunk of your account list you have not penetrated yet? And I'd say, hey, look, I have not been able to go after professional services yet, or I have not been able to go after. Here are 14 accounts I have not been able to crack yet. Go see what you can turn up.
Right.
And when they would get something, I tell you that did 2 things. One is when they get something, I was ecstatic because that meant I had to do less work to get something. But the second thing was when I got a deal that was ready to be chased, they would almost get first dibs on it because they had proven they had stuck with me through thin and thick, if you will. And so that's something I think partners should do more of and don't do enough of. If you're not investing as a partner in some sort of telesales activity, you or outbound marketing, you probably should reevaluate how you're doing your sales and marketing efforts today.
Brilliant. I think it's going to be a good tip for some of the listeners. Brilliant. So my next question is, if you look at the Dynamics landscape and the various solutions now available, such as field service, sales, customer service, talent, finance and operations, retail, project service automation, marketing and customer insight, and that's just the list today, what do you see the large growth, or where is the white space for partners that, if you like, they've got a good established business, but they want to grow? What's the recommendation across that product suite that they should take?
Field service.
I'm
sorry. That was field service. I know.
I know it's your area. But,
I got ulterior motives here.
This gives you an opportunity, though, to really say what that field service opportunity is. I mean, I expected you to say field service. So tell us why.
So I'm going to preface this with that. There's lots of areas. I don't think if you look at any of the Gartner charts, okay, look at the percentage of customers doing something on Gartner, for example. What vendor has the percent, the highest percentage of this? First of all, they do it via dollar amount, right? So, right. Not by number of seats. So via dollar amount, the four top players, and take Salesforce automation, which is a mature workload, right? We've been doing it for close to 20 years.
Exactly.
It's mature. If you and I haven't looked at the numbers recently, but if you look at the overall size of the marketplace and what percentage everybody has, some software companies or no software companies may say, "Hey, we're the market leader," right? What they don't show is they have a 10 or 12% total market share. So if you add up, and again, I haven't done this recently, but when I added up before, I've added up Siebel or Oracle, Salesforce, SAP, and Microsoft. Those three those are the big four, right? We're still at less than 35% market share.
Yeah.
So 65% market's using something else or somebody else. And I'll get that for field service, but you look at kind of the number of workers out there. 11% of the workforce is in sales. So 11% of the workforce we're in today is in sales. That's that's a good chunk of people. Nice business. Field workers, people who do not have a desk job, people who go out and do trade work on site without. There's 31% of the workers today are field workers.
Wow.
34% of the workers out there today are in project work. Meaning they get assigned to a project, have a project manager, and not all of it's IT projects. It might be the folks behind me building a new road, but field and project service is 65% of the overall pie of available workers. Customer service is 22%. So when I look at just so they're
big shares.
They're huge shares. When I look at field service, I'm looking at field service before we bought Field One. The top player in the market share in 2015 had a 14% market share.
Wow.
The other bucket had a 42% market share.
Nice. Wow. So what's that?
Well, that's either things people have custom written. It's piece of
custom systems. Yeah.
A little piece of software with half of a percent of things. So when I think about how a partner can expand, don't focus on the big three competitors. I wouldn't, at least. Focus on how do I get more of that, of either the dying marketplace. I'm looking at the share of competitors 2015, and 3 of the players are out of business now. They're no longer in the field service business.
Yeah. Wow. Incredible.
So how do we go after those? How do we go after specific verticals? So on the suites, I think there's not a place that Microsoft has addressed as an available marketplace that there's not white space for partners. And so partners need to engage with Microsoft and figure out where those places are, but also look at where you're at. A lot of the partners who've done field service or started doing field service came from an operations background.
Right. Yeah. Not surprised. Not surprised.
And the other thing I would tell partners is the marketplace has changed significantly. You have to have somebody on your team, if you're going to do projects of medium complexity or higher, who understands Azure. If you haven't jumped on the Azure bandwagon, you need to stop and go back and get on it. I got my first demo of Cortana Skills.
Yeah. So it's obviously a new thing because I haven't heard of it before.
It's a new thing. Blew me away. Absolutely, positively phenomenal. And you could ask, you can literally hit the microphone button on your computer or microphone button on your phone and go, Cortana, can I get directions to my next field service appointment, please? And Cortana would go out to Dynamics 365, understand where you're at, pull it in. It was an absolutely awesome set of, but it was all based on Azure. I mean, the actual Dynamics portion of that was nothing.
Totally agree. I mean, the investment has to be in there, as in more and more. And my experience is that Dynamics doesn't stop within its own application. If you like, it does. Most projects always merge into Azure, it seems, these days.
Well, we're just doing some work with one of the analysts, and they're like, well, what's your integration strategy? I'm like, my personal perspective is, do we have to have our own? I mean, if you take Azure Logic Apps, I mean, here's an integration. I mean, here Azure Logic Apps has all these apps it talks to. And so why would the Dynamics team need to build their own integration strategy when we have these built-in tools in our toolbox we can use today? Yeah. Well, your competitors do. Well, our competitors don't have all of our breadth.
So did they get it?
I will know in a couple weeks here.
What they're right. Yeah, so true.
Mine is just to say what we want to do and let somebody else actually make sure it actually happens.
Yeah. So I want to talk about partners that you've seen that have been very successful over partners that not so much. And you've mentioned before saying, hey, here's a bunch of accounts that I'm not doing anything in, but we know there's something there. Go out and help, get involved and see what you can draw out of those accounts. What other things have you seen successful partners do well that would have been a contributor to their growing success?
I think the partners I have. So a couple things here. One is if you're a partner and you're interfacing with Microsoft, and every email to Microsoft is an ask of Microsoft, knock it off. If your every email is I need something from you, you're not. At that point, I'm going to start ignoring your email just because I don't have that much time I'm not your admin. I think the partners who do this really well have been the partners that understand the ecosystem, understand that we don't always have control of what we want to have control over, and understand how they're going to win some and lose some. And I almost, the concept I think about a lot is market sharing.
Yep.
If you look at the biggest partners in the world today from a Dynamics perspective, they are partners who generally tend to share.
Yeah. True.
And then you look at those who, I look at partners who struggle. Look at big consulting firms that have struggled to start and run a Dynamics practice. And almost universally, what it comes down to is that they don't have a sharing culture internally. It's a very, this is our stuff. These are our toys. Go away. Now, some people at Microsoft, I've seen people at Microsoft have that same attitude. They don't generally tend to last very long. That's the nice thing is if you have the attitude of these are my toys, go away, you're generally going to end up getting, you're not going to last more than a year or two here, maybe 3 or 4, but you're not going to last. You're not going to last 10 years if you have a what's in it for me attitude from a Microsoft perspective. but from a partner perspective, it's sharing. Here's case studies. So, the same partners who I call and say, hey, I don't have anything for you. I'll pick the phone and call them. Hey, I need a reference customer. I don't care what the size is that has the following. They need to have Dynamics NAV and CRM integrated. They need to have SAP and anybody have a partner anybody have a customer like this? And the partners who raise their hand and say, "Yeah, I got one. Here they are. Let me do an intro email for you."
Yeah.
First of all, that makes my job infinitely easier, and I'm going to remember that you made my job easier and not harder, and I'm going to want to help you again.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
But it's also just the ability to share and not. If you hold all your cards so close to the chest, Microsoft and us as our partners, we're married. It's not always a happy marriage. It's not always the best marriage, but we're married. My success hinges on you, and your success hinges on me.
Exactly. Yep.
So we got to figure out a way to make this work. And the best marriages I've seen are ones where we laugh together and we cry together. If one of us laughing, one's crying, it's probably not the best marriage. Or
exactly.
You're not married to a redhead like I am, and you won't get stabbed in your sleep.
So tell me, what advice, and I'm getting to the end here, what advice do you have for partners running 365 businesses or considering it? So probably more on the considering. So they're let's say they're strong in another area. It might be in Office 365. It might be even in Azure, and they're considering getting involved in Dynamics.
I think the biggest mistake I see from partners who have Azure or Office 365 is Dynamics 365 is the business application space as a whole is a very different marketplace than the more infrastructure or other collaboration platforms. And what I've seen is partners don't take the long game of it. You need you need to take a long game approach. If you're taking a short game approach, find another partner to partner with. Because it's a remarkably different marketplace. It's a remarkably different thing. And the other thing is, I would say find your vertical, find your niche. Because if you don't, like selling Office 365, everybody does email almost the same every time.
Right.
If you don't find your niche in there, you're not going to be successful. So find a niche and play the long game. And by playing the long game, I mean, realize this is a 2 to 3 year investment period for you. You're going to invest $1 million building a practice.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to invest $1 million building your practice, so 2 or 3 people for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to invest that $1 million, go find somebody who's already invested that $1 million. I mean, if you look at the number of small, medium partners and like here in Atlanta where I live, there's 24 of them. Go partner up with them. Get a referral.
So in other words, so you're saying don't do it yourself. You could actually partner with another partner that might already have the expertise in that space.
If you're not willing to make the investment and see the investment through.
Yeah. Excellent.
Because I'm using the $1 million mark. $1 million is a lot of money. It's a ton. $1 million, £1 million, £1 million. $1 million of anything is a lot. But if you're starting your practice from scratch and you're not doing it yourself and you've got to kind of do your own thing and you've got to bring people in, that's what you're going to spend building your practice to the point it gets profitable. If you're not willing to make that investment, go find another partner that you can partner with and work with them. I mean, the only thing worse than spending $1 million to me, $1 million you have a practice you can turn on. The only worse would be spending $500,000 and killing the practice. Because then you've lost $500,000 with no ability to ever get it back. At least if you spend the full $1 million, you're on the return to profitability at some point.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so what are your predictions for the next 5 years in the dynamic space? And it's only predictions. No one's holding you to it.
the term I see being kicked. So first of all, my hope is dynamic space that we become more transparent. Meaning that every time I look at a big demo from Microsoft stage of anything somebody's showing, they kind of hand build almost a CRM app. If I see one more SharePoint demo of a hand built CRM app, I might go ballistic. But be transparent from the perspective of we become a fabric or underpinning the business application layer inside Microsoft. And we're already there, but we're not transparent yet, meaning that the UI becomes decomposable and recomposable. That's one of the predictions I would love to come see. I think the bot revolution is way less than 5 years. The bot revolution is upon us. We will have robot overlords in the very near future. And I think things like Cortana skills and voice. I mean, I hate talking to Siri or Google Now or Cortana. I hate going, hey, send a text to my wife. That drives me nuts. My wife, on the other hand, loves talking to her phone. My kids, it's actually kind of cool. We have an Alexa in our kitchen, and my kids, hey, what's the square root of 12? And Alexa answers it. How do you spell boat? And Alexa, my kids are almost, they're 10 and 14, but they view talking to this little cylinder in my kitchen as natural. Yeah, I still view it as a weird thing. They view it as a so I think that's going to kind of evolve over the next 5 years. Is making bots do things on our behalf.
Yeah, definitely interesting times. Okay, so I've got a couple of quick fire questions for you. What book do you recommend most to people working in Dynamics, and why?
So there's a couple books I'd recommend. My favorite book is The Fiefdom Syndrome by Bob Hembold. Bob was our first COO back in the early 90s.
Right.
If you want to understand why Microsoft people change jobs every 2 years, if you want to understand why we're set up the way we're set up, and some of this has changed in the past couple of years, and with the last, reorganization has changed a little more. But if you want to see why we were set up the way we're set up and why we do things the way we do things, and kind of the deep-seated cultural things at Microsoft, Bob Hembold's book should be on everybody who deals with Microsoft's reading list.
And the other one?
There's lots of other ones I recommend. The question behind the question is really good. Crucial Conversations is probably the other one. I think Crucial Conversations is one of the best classes I've ever been to. If you get a chance to go to the class, not just the book, the class, it is. I tend to have a bull in the china shop approach to life in general. I pretty much slap things on the table and we can discuss them, and we'll work our way through them. I learned that my communication style is not necessarily normal, which is which is fun. But that book really helped me kind of figure out why why conversations go the way they do, and how you can help steer conversation, how you can have emotionally charged conversations without people getting upset and annoyed and walking off. So for me, that was a great book. And then the question by the question, I've always found that people ask questions, but the questions they ask are never the questions they actually mean to ask. So it's I always want to, what's the question what's the question that's actually feeding the question you're asking? Because sometimes people ask questions a way to hide their true intent. So I like keep asking those questions, kind of peel down the onion to get down the basics of it.
Yeah. It's interesting. I read a book some years ago called Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play by Mahan Khalsa, and it sounds very similar to what you were saying there. To getting to the truth or the questions that should be asked, and not beating around the bush, so to speak.
Yeah, very much so.
So, what's your favorite app and why?
Oh, my favorite app. That is probably the hardest question on the planet to answer. So I actually,
what are you using the most?
Well, so that's actually funny. So you mentioned that. I actually went to my battery meter this morning before our conversation and pulled up what apps I've been consuming the most amount of battery life.
Oh, yeah.
Figured that was a good way of telling you. My current favorite one, and this is a shameless Microsoft plug, is Microsoft Pix.
Yep.
The version I have has the ability to scan business cards and documents and whiteboards into it. And just the ability to do that and do it on the fly is probably one of my favorite things ever. LinkedIn, I'll tell you, I'm on LinkedIn all the time. So LinkedIn is definitely a favorite app. Kind of my guilty pleasure app is an app called Blind, which is kind of an anonymous work chat application. It's interesting to see kind of the water cooler of Microsoft, because I work remotely, so I'm not always in the office all the time. So it's kind of interesting just seeing the cesspool that is the water cooler and kind of getting a chuckle and moving on.
Daily rituals. Do you have any that kind of set you up for a successful day?
I've got two. One is I like to start work early. I think that the earlier you start work, and not 4 a.m. early, but I like starting work early to get a head start on what else is going on. I like to kind of sit down at the beginning of the day and be able to have a clean slate. So I would say that's good. The other thing is working from home. I've been doing it now for a long time, and what I do is I have a office in my backyard at 6 p.m. at night. Not always, but I'm going to say, 4 out of 5 nights a week. I aim for 5. At 6 p.m., I close my laptop lid. I open my shed door. I walk out my shed and close it and leave my laptop in my office. Too many people I see that work from home, they never disconnect from their office. And I might be back. I might come back down to my office and grab my laptop at 10 o'clock at night and do an hour between 10 and 11. Yep. But I try to, at 6 p.m., my work day's over. And I take phone calls and other stuff, but my laptop, my tether, if you will, I try to disconnect that at 6.
If you could redo anything in your Dynamics career, what would it be?
Oh, that list is long. I would say for me personally, what I would redo is I'm not always known for having a strong sense of tact, which has been both good and bad. In the past 2 years of my current job, I've had to learn a strong sense of tact, which has been a challenging learning experience for me. I wish I'd done that 10 years ago. Right. And so sometimes I think that just because you're right doesn't mean you're right. So I would say, especially if you come from a technical background, I come from a tech geek background, Mark. If you want to have a successful career, just because you're right doesn't mean you're right. And second thing is, find mentors, find people who care about you. They don't, and find them outside, especially here at like a Microsoft. You find them outside your organization. Find them in pockets of the company outside you, and help have people who are willing to invest in your future, who isn't your manager, who isn't in your command chain. And it's interesting. You also provide a lot of input for them. So it's a two-way street there. Make sure it's a two-way street. But that's what I would say would be the two things I would do.
Yeah. Excellent. Ben, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Before you go, if people want to follow you online, where can they find you?
Right. LinkedIn is probably the best way to find me. So it's linkedin.com/n/Ben Vollmer. Is probably the best way. I did have a blog for a good period of time, and that will be resurrected. But for right now, LinkedIn's the best place to go.
This has been a Dynamics 365 podcast focusing on the ingredients of a successful Dynamics 365 practice. Your host was Business Solution MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as NZ365 Guy. For more information on this interview, show notes, feedback, and resources mentioned, or if you know someone who would be a great guest for future episodes, please go to nz365guy.com/podcast. Thanks to Maplytics for sponsoring the Dynamics 365 Practice Podcast.